Hello everyone. During my early days when I started working on Terraform, I faced a lot of problems. With time, I learned how to avoid those mistakes and how to write a better Terraform code. So in this video, I'll be talking about few of the things which you should always keep in mind when you're writing your Terraform code. So the first thing is we should always use Terraform modules. Sometimes in the beginning it looks tricky to use Terraform modules, but trust me, it is not that difficult. Once you are used to it, you can easily work on Terraform modules. And I will suggest write your own modules, not just download modules from anywhere. So now let's see how I keep my Terraform modules. So I'm not very big fan of Git submodules. That's why I avoid keeping my modules in a separate Git repository. Rather than, I prefer to keep my modules also in the same directory where I'm having my Terraform code. Let's see this directory structure. So here if you can see, I have few directories for my different accounts. So let's say this is for dev account, this is for production, and this is for QA. And this directory I have for keeping my modules. So inside this directory I keep all my modules, and from the other directories I just call those modules so that my resources can be created. Let's see what is inside this modules directory. So I can have different modules like this inside this directory. You can have as many as modules you can or you want. You can have as many as modules you want. You can just put it here inside the directory. By using Terraform modules, we will have multiple benefits. So first of all, you will get a full control on your Terraform code. You can decide in what way your resources should get created, and you can always implement various standards across your resource creation. So let's take an example. So let's say you want to create your SQS queue, and you always want the naming convention of the queue should be in some pattern. So let's say it should start with the application name, and it should always end with the environment name. Let's say some application -prod, or let's say some application -QA. Let's assume you are not using modules. It is very difficult now to enforce this standard across all the SQS queues, because let's say in your team there are multiple guys. Some have followed that standard, some have missed that, and you can always implement a review process on top of it. But then also you will have to every time keep an eye whether the naming convention is being followed properly or not. But let's say if you are using Terraform module, then what you can do, you can just mention that strict thing in the Terraform module itself, so that no one could intentionally also change it. I'm not going into the detail of how to write a module in this session. Let's see what next. So the next is you should always version your Terraform modules. What do I mean by versioning here? So let's say you have created your Terraform module at some stage. After that you might enhance that module also. Sometimes it is very easy, you can go and just change the module and that's it. But sometimes changing the module requires the resources to be updated which are already created using that module. So in that case you will be in trouble. So let's say either you will not be able to update your module because it requires some code changes in the earlier created resources. So in that case, if you already have versioning enabled, then it will be very easy. You can have your new resources created with the new version, and then you can similarly plan for the upgrade of the older resources so that they can switch from the older version to the newer version. There are different ways of dealing with the versioning also, but I prefer it to be very simple. I just follow the directory structure for maintaining the Terraform versioning. Let's see how I do it. So as you saw, this was my modules directory inside which I have certain modules. Let's see how I'm maintaining versioning of each of them. I will run this tree command on the modules directory. and let's see what all subdirectories we have. So if you see inside each module, I have a directory with name of version. So let's say this is v1, this is v2, this IAM has only one version, let's say v1. So in this way I'm maintaining the version of my modules. So let's say by default I will start with v1, and let's say with time I need some changes to be done on this module. Then what I'll do, I'll just create a new version called v2, and I will just copy paste the same thing here, and then I will do the changes on v2. I will not touch my v1 because it might impact the resources which are already created using this module. So this way I will I'm maintaining versioning in my Terraform modules. One more thing we should always keep in mind, when to update the versioning. So it is not recommended to always update your version whenever you are doing any changes in the module. That's not correct. You should carefully decide when to do a version bump. So let's say if you are doing any changes which will not impact the resources which are already created, then you can silently go in the same directory and do your changes. But let's say you are making some changes which will require some code changes from the earlier created resources, then you should definitely create a new version, because it will impact the resources which are already created. So what you should do, you should create a new version, create your new resources with the new version, and then the upgrade of the earlier created resources you can put in your backlog so that you can upgrade them one by one. This is my preferred way of doing Terraform versioning. There can be multiple other ways. Write your thoughts in the comment section and let me know how you are managing your Terraform versioning. The next thing is, never put all your eggs in one basket. What it means is, you should not write the complete Terraform code inside a single directory, because that will have a lot of problems. I will tell you one by one. So first of all, it will increase your execution time, because now you have a lot of resources inside a single directory. The moment you will run a Terraform plan, it will try to refresh the state of all the resources which you have in your directory. So that essentially means higher the number of resources in a single directory, higher is the time for refreshing the state, and hence higher is the time for running the Terraform plan. So always try to keep lesser number of resources in a single directory. Now the other thing is, your impact area is also minimized if you keep your code segregated. So let's imagine two cases. In one case you have all the resources in the single directory, and by mistake I deleted a variable, or let's say by mistake I changed a variable that might be used in multiple places. So let's say if you have the complete code in the single directory, changing some changes in one place may impact multiple things. So it can impact your production environment also. So that's why if you try to segregate your code into multiple smaller chunks, then your impact area is very minimized. I will show you how I'm maintaining that later on. The next thing is code maintainability. So keeping everything in a single place will be very cumbersome, and after some time you yourself will not be able to find out what you have written in which place. But in case of code segregation, your code will be very structured and you can easily find out anything in your Terraform code. And let's say if you are working in a team, then your team also can understand the Terraform code in a better way. Let's see that how it looks. So again, let me show you my directory structure, how I segregate my Terraform code. You have already seen how I am segregating my modules. Now let's see how I am segregating my actual Terraform code. I will just run the tree command this time on the complete repository, and let's see what I have. So this was the part of module. I think we already talked about it. Now let's see what is inside these accounts. So inside, let's say dev account, what I have a separate directory for each and every application. So let's say if any application want some resources to be created from Terraform, what I'm doing, I'm just creating a separate folder for each application, and I'm writing the Terraform code specific to that application inside this directory only. So one folder for each application. Then I have created a common directory also, in which I will create resources which are common to all applications. So let's say if I'm working on AWS, I will create my VPC in this directory, right? Because that is something which is common to everyone. Now I'm also creating a separate directory for EKS and EKS add-ons. So that totally depends on you, how you want to do the segregation. Someone will say why you are creating two separate directories for EKS and EKS add-on, why can't we merge both of them? So that is totally your choice. In whatever way you want to do the segregation, you can do. The concept is you should always keep that modularized so that it is very easy to maintain, and impact area is also very minimal. So let's take an example. Now I have to do a variable change in this directory. So now let's say if I'm doing a blunder also, it will impact this application only. It will not impact anything else. But in the earlier scenario, when I was having the complete code inside a single directory, it might impact multiple other things. And as this directory will now only have the code related to this application, so it will have very minimal Terraform code. So Terraform execution will also take very less time now. And let's see what I have in other directories. So similar to dev account, I have same directory structure in production, QA, and my shared account. Applications could be different. So let's say in my shared account, I have a common directory which will have VPC and other resources specific to that. I have Kubernetes here, let's say EKS and EKS add-ons. Let's say in my shared account, I also have few applications like Jenkins, Sonar, VPN. Now the next thing is, should we use Terraform Workspaces? There is a lot of debate on this topic over the internet. I have read a lot of articles where people are debating whether we should use Terraform Workspaces or not. I will tell you what is my preferred way. So as you have already seen this directory structure, you can clearly see I'm not using Terraform Workspaces. I prefer duplicating my code in different directories rather than using Terraform Workspaces. The reason is I have learned this over the time, because at one stage I also tried using Terraform Workspaces, but I ended up having lot of problems. I will tell you those one by one. So first of all, all the environments are always not identical. There will always be some exception. So if you're working for an organization, there will be some application which says I only need two environments, let's say dev and production. Then there will be some other application which will say I only need two environments, production and staging. Then there will be few things which are only for dev environment, right? So the catch is all the environments are always not identical. There will be always some delta in between. The next thing is, in some places I have seen like organizations are designing their different environments in a different way also. So let's say in dev environment, infra is designed in a different way, and let's say in staging and production, infra is designed in a different way. So that is also something which practically happens, and I have seen that in a lot of organizations. And if you have this directory structure, you can write anything. So you can write the complete different code in case of dev environment, you can write a complete different code for your production. Or let's say if it is needed, you can just replicate the code. So let's say if someone says my production should be always identical with my QA environment, what you can do, you can just replicate the complete code from here to here. So in directory structure, you have that complete control. You don't have to think about how it will work, if I will templatize it. So that is not a worry in case of directory structure. In case of Terraform Workspaces, I was not able to find that much flexibility. The next thing is, you need a very skilled team to work on Terraform Workspaces, because you have to tell them, you have to write some workspace switch command before writing the code, and sometimes things are not visible also. So if your team is not very skilled, you will face problems. They will definitely create chaos for you. and in case of directory structure, everything is visible, so there are very less chances guys will commit the mistake. So this is my experience. I definitely wanted to know what is your experience working with Terraform Workspaces. Do let me know in the comment section. The next thing is, you should use a proper naming convention to define your Terraform resources. Trust me, this is very important, and this can make your life hell also if being not followed properly. And let's say followed properly, definitely you will have a very good speed in writing your Terraform code. Let's understand it better with an example. So this is a bad example, and you can see in my Terraform code I have defined a module, and I'm naming the module as dev-vpc. So I'm trying to create a vpc here. I've just specified the source of it, and I'm trying to give my vpc a name also. So let's say my vpc-dev. I'm giving a cider range here for my VPC, and in the tag also I'm just defining the name. So if you see, I have hard-coded everything in this file. So let's say if there is a need and I have to copy this file to some other environment. So let's say I have to create a VPC for my QA environment. Then I will have to change all these things manually. All these dev, or let's say this VPC cider or the name, I will have to change all of them manually. And this will become even more worse if I have referenced this module in some other places as well. So let's say while defining my EC2 instances, I might have referred this module, right? So then in that place also I will have to rename that to module.qa.qa-vpc dot, let's say vpc id. Then I will have to do multiple changes just in order to replicate this. And if I'm doing that manually, definitely I'm increasing the chances of committing typo errors, or let's say human errors. Let's see a good example now. So see, I have modified that same code like this. So here if you see, while defining the module name, I'm not using any environment specific thing. I'm trying to make it as generic as possible. Even not even the VPC name I'm specifying here. I'm just writing VPC. This way, this will become a generic object, and I can use this same thing across all environments. Now see, for name also I'm using some form of variable. For cider range, for tags, for everything I'm using some form of variable. For this I have created a separate variable file also. Let's see that. So this is my variable file, and if you see, I have specified the cider range here, the VPC name here, the environment thing, right? Because I want to use this across multiple environments. So environment also I'm not hard coding here. I will use a separate tf-var files in order to populate this. Similarly, name also I'm not hard coding anything. Name I'm trying to generate using some expression. So you can see I have just used this local thing, and name I'm generating via a combination of the defined name here and the environment. Similarly for the tag also. So if you see, if I have to replicate this, then what will be the effort? I only have to do the changes in my this variable file, and in this file there will be no change. So because there is nothing related to environment or account mentioned here, I'm only using some generic keywords, and the things which might get changed according to environment, those I'm trying to pick from the variable file. So if I will do this, I don't have to change anything directly here. And let's say even if I'm referring this module in some other places, like I mentioned, like I can use this in EC2 to refer my VPC ID or something like that. On those places also I will just write module.vpc, because there is no environment related thing here. So while defining your resources, please keep that thing in mind. try to name them as generic as possible, because this will give you a flexibility of replicating the code. So let's say I have to create a new environment altogether. What I will do, I'll just copy paste all the files directly to a new directory, and then the only place on which I have to do the changes is my variable.tf and tfvars, and I don't have to look at each and every resource file in order to see did I hard-coded dev somewhere or did I hard-coded QA somewhere. I will not be in that trouble. And if there are lesser files on which I have to look, then the chances of committing error will also get reduced. So these are the few findings, I will say, which I have learned over the time. And if you also use these things while writing your Terraform code, definitely you will improve a lot. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.